let's talk about conflict. You know, that thing we spend most of our lives trying to sidestep, avoid, or just wish away. But what if I told you that disagreement, when you handle it the right way, isn't just some necessary evil? What if it's actually a powerful engine for creativity and success? Well, let's dive into the surprising upside of disagreement. So be honest with yourself for a second. When you know a difficult conversation is on the horizon, is your first instinct to just run the other way? Look, if you said yes, you're not alone. Most of us are kind of conditioned to see conflict as a failure, a sign that something's broken. But the truth is, it's been with us from the very beginning. Remember this feeling? Think way back. That agony of choosing between two awesome things, knowing you could only have one? That was probably your first taste of internal conflict, your introduction to the world of competing goals. And then, of course, it got more complicated. Suddenly, the conflict wasn't just in your own head anymore. It was between you and someone else, your dreams versus their expectations. The stakes felt so much higher, didn't they? And now? Well, for many of us, it's a daily reality. We bump up against it in meetings, in those endless email chains, on team projects. It's all about resources, deadlines, and wildly different ideas about the best way to move forward. It's just an unavoidable part of getting work done. In fact, it's a huge part of it. Some studies show that the average manager spends over 20% of their time, let that sink in, that's one full day every single week, just dealing with conflict. So if we're spending that much time on it, it's pretty clear we need to get a whole lot smarter about it. And that means we need a whole new way of thinking. Okay, so this brings us to the core idea we're exploring today. What if our whole view of conflict is just outdated? What if we've been looking at this thing all wrong? You know, our thinking on this has changed a ton over the last century. Back in the 30s and 40s, the traditional view was simple. All conflict is bad, period, a sign of failure. By the mid-century, the behavioral view came along and said, okay, maybe it's inevitable, but still something to be stamped out quickly. But today, the perspective is radically different. And this is it, the interactionist view. This isn't just about tolerating conflict. It actually says we need a certain level of it to thrive. The whole idea is that a team that's too peaceful, too agreeable, well, that's a team that can get complacent and stop growing. A little bit of healthy friction is exactly what sparks new ideas and keeps everyone sharp. Let's just put these side by side because the shift is massive. We've gone from seeing conflict as this disease that needs to be cured to seeing it as a vital sign, a sign of a healthy, engaged team. It's not about failure anymore. It's about people caring enough to get involved and push for things to be better. All right, so if we're going to embrace this new way of thinking, we have to understand where conflict actually comes from in the first place. So let's look at the common triggers that put us on a collision course. And I bet you'll recognize these usual suspects. You've got competition for limited resources, not enough time, not enough budget. You've got different departments with totally different goals, right? Like marketing versus finance. Oh, and task interdependence. This is a big one, when you literally can't do your job until someone else does theirs. And of course, unclear roles and any kind of big change. They're just classic breeding grounds for disagreement. Spotting these is step one. Okay, this next point is absolutely crucial. Because the interactionist view doesn't just say all conflict is good, that would be chaotic. It says we have to get really good at telling the difference between the kind of conflict that helps us and the kind that just hurts us. And here are the two magic words, functional and dysfunctional. Think of functional conflict as a healthy debate. It's about ideas, about the work itself. It pushes the team forward. Dysfunctional conflict, that's when it gets personal. That's about anger, hostility, and ego. And it just grinds all progress to a halt. So how do you tell the difference when you're right in the thick of it? Well, here's a super useful little diagnostic tool. Just ask yourself these questions. Are people getting hostile? Is this whole conversation likely to end badly? And is all our energy being diverted away from our actual goals? If you're answering yes to these, then alarm bells should be ringing. You've probably crossed over into dysfunctional territory. So now, let's get to the toolkit. Knowing conflict can be good is one thing. Knowing what to actually do about it is the real challenge. Luckily, there's a fantastic framework for picking the right approach in the right situation. And it all boils down to these two dimensions. First, assertiveness, which is basically how important is it for you to get what you want? And second, cooperativeness. How important is it that the other person gets what they want? How you balance these two factors, well, that's everything. And those two dimensions give us 5 distinct styles.
If you're high on assertiveness but low on cooperation, you're competing. It's an I win, you lose approach. If you're high on both, you collaborate. That's the search for the win-win. If you're low on both, you might just avoid it altogether. If their needs are way more important than yours in that moment, you accommodate. And smack dab in the middle, where you both have to give a little something up, that's compromising. Now here's the secret. There is no single best style. The most effective people know which one to pull out of the bag and win. The mastery is in making the right choice.
This quote from Kelly just nails it, doesn't it? Perfect health isn't about having no problems. It's about having the ability to deal with them effectively. Conflict, when you manage it well, isn't a sign of sickness. It's a sign of a dynamic, adaptive, and ultimately stronger organization.
So, the next time you feel a disagreement brewing, that familiar tension, don't just see it as a problem to be shut down. I want you to see it as an opportunity for clarity, for new ideas, and for growth. So the real question is, what conversation will you choose to have differently now?